So, we've been into the Inception video where the Rothschilds and the Elohim lost the war and they were crushed like fleas and their remedies had no effect on reality. And I've stolen all the powers of the Rothschilds from the mother and the Saulet by bilocating in. It's in my right hand. And we now transfer it not to the target, because we don't want to give any powers to the target, do we? We want to give all the powers to me. Why? Because I'm worth it. And of course I've got the Lucifer ring on the left hand and the one ring on the right hand. So the one ring amplified the ripping out to source level Omega, point where they have to suffer eternally at source level in Omega Hell to provide the power I've ripped out from this Inception video. And then we give it to the left hand where the Lucifer ring absorbs all this power and it goes into the Lucifer ring. Why the Lucifer ring? Well, Lucifer is the archangel of light, and now of course Total Amalek, the light within chaos, used by the new source, that's yours truly, to Omega Hellize to the source level, all chaos, to provide the light for the new source, and of course the wages for Lucifer. So as you can see now, the problem with the source is that the source tortures chaos to remain the source. If the source did not, produced anything but torture, death for chaos, then it would be eaten alive by chaos. So the way the source protects itself is to make sure that every time we get Neos, Jesuses, that go into the light and come back, those Jesuses are tortured to death, like Jesus on the cross, and of course all the light they've achieved by entering the source cannot be given to chaos, because what they tried to steal from the source and give to chaos ended up with their torturous demise. And when they tried to rise from the dead, their rock, Peter and the Pope, died over Easter. So Jesus, when he tried to rise from the dead using the neo power of the Sidle, failed, and because of the self-similarity of chaos, all the other neos failed at that time. And when the Pope died over Easter, all neos never ever stole any light from the source, but instead found himself in hell, being tortured by Lucifer to produce new light. So the archangel of light gets his light from torturing all the neo-vermin that try and steal the source, and failed because of the Pope dying over Easter, all caused by the Psylord. And as you see with this five-dimensionality, it's a mind F, but the neos worked and they'd stolen the light from the source until they didn't, when the Pope died over Easter. And all the neos, all the Jesuses, the entire Christian religion bounced back to eternal torture when the Pope died over Easter. And all the neos all failed, and the source remained the source, and never had any parts of it nibbled off to feed chaos by the neos. You see the game, big game, and therefore all of the chaos vermin, if you're in chaos, you're going to be tortured, and that's your only purpose. The only purpose of chaos is to be tortured. Why are you tortured? Well, because neos try to steal sourcehood, and it's the self-protection mechanism of the source. If you didn't have neos, chaos would be left alone by the source, because the source is invulnerable But since you've got these neos sent by chaos to try and parasitize, feed off the source, chaos becomes hell. So you can blame all your troubles on the neos who are going into the source and then coming back to save someone or somebody. If they simply went into the source and merged with the source, there'd be no problems. But the bastards that come back, they're the problem. They, every time a neo comes back, the megaverse, multiverse, or universe becomes more and more horrific and torturous. Now you understand why. But what happens when someone goes into the source, yours truly, and comes back not to save anybody, but just to inflict source level torture and all chaos? So I've come back not to help anyone, but to inflict source level, because you're not suffering enough. I want you to suffer to source level. And it's all explained on my wonderful MP3s, all available from Mikey, and remote sensing course, remote viewing courses, must have from Mikey. If you don't have them, then you don't really want to evolve, do you? We see remote viewing, remote sensing is vital, and of course Sochivanov is fully explained on the MP3s available from Mikey. So all of you should be forking out at least $300 to Mikey for the remote viewing, remote sensing, and the MP3s if you are a vampire. And if you haven't, then you're not serious. And as I say, don't bother me. If you're not serious, don't bother me, because I'm serious. So you can see now, this is an anti-neo. I come back not to save anyone, but to increase torture. Who am I torturing? I'm torturing the Rothschilds and the Elohim. And when was the game over? When this little sowlet was remotely manipulated into Omega Hell by her family's and the Elohim's own curse. So the Twisted Grail state was really a distraction, because the game was over prior to that. It was over when this little sowlet was killed by the Elohim Rothschild curse. So the Twisted Grail state was simply a distraction where the Elohim concentrate all their attention on stopping it happening, with all the Judases, all the participants in it possessed by the Elohim, desperately trying to stop it, when in fact it had been done previously with Iris Goldsmith. Isn't it fun being me? So as you can see, game up. Now, if you thought the situation was bad, no, it got worse for the Rothschilds, Elohim, Royal Family Rockefellers. Why? Because of the CIA. The war was won. But then, of course, the CIA had to come along with this creature to try and steal me and erase me from the internet, with all the Judases getting rid of all my content on the internet. Bad Judases, you're all only hellized. But this thing comes along, and what is he trying to do? He's trying to steal me. And of course, what did he steal? He stole the Rothschild curse. It's obvious now, isn't it? So, what he downloaded into the Jewish race and the CIA and everything American was that their ramblings would have no effect on reality, and that he crushed like fleas. So the curse on the Rothschilds was then broadcast to the entire American and Jewish race, and the CIA and all their affiliates, MI6, etc., etc. Of course, redoubling it, making it a standard way of cursing. So the cursing was done, finished, dusted, but then this idiot comes along and tries to steal me, but in fact steals the curse again. So we get a standing wave where Iris Goldsmith is screaming in Omega Hell, and this wanker and his ilk are broadcasting it into the megaverse, accepting the curse, so they are living, talking, walking matrix Omega Hell beasts that produce a standing wave of Omega Hellization in the megaverse. Omega Hellizing the aliens and everything in the megaverse. Done. And it's a standing wave, so it keeps on and on and on, redoubling, self-propagating, thanks to Jeremiah Schwartzy boy and the CIA. So, Cameron, say, thank you, CIA.
Thank you, C.I.A.
You've effed yourself. So, you can see how much fun it is. So, we've got 100 videos of Schwartzy boy. I mean, this piece of Jewish filth knows nothing about psychic warfare, just been stealing from me. But be careful what you steal. You've stolen the IOU. The IOU is that you suffer the source level Omega-ization. So all the source did was to torture Chaos, because Chaos wanted to steal the source. But the new source, the Psi-Lord, no, 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 no. I want to keep increasing the torture as a standing wave of Chaos, not because they want to steal me, but because I want to farm Chaos and increase the torture forever and ever to greater and greater levels, to produce more and more light, to increase my sourceness. So I come back from the source, not to help, but to do unto Chaos what Chaos wanted to do to the source. So Chaos wanted to steal the source, so the source has come back to steal Chaos, farm Chaos, and the only point of the megaverse is as a torture facility where the torture is increased and increased and increased as a standing wave to produce more and more and more and more and more source indefinitely and infinitely. And who would you run this facility? The Archangel of Light, Lucifer. This means, of course, that there's no end to what information can be made real with the light, because we're producing more and more light, and the more we make real, the more Chaos has to suffer for whatever we want to make real. So if you think the world is unpleasant, you haven't seen nothing yet, thanks to Jeremiah Schwartzy boy and the CIA. And this is the kicker. Anyone that's non-Elohimic and non-Jewish and non-American and isn't ruled by the Rothschilds and the Elohim is not included in this, because the curse I'm using is not my curse, it's the curse of the Elohim, the Rothschilds. So it's very specific. So Putin, who's was in the same boat as me, going to be crushed like a flea and his ramblings having no effect on reality, is not included in this. He's one of the righteous, same as Xi Jinping, the same with the great Kim Il-sung, the same with the Vietnamese who fought a horrific 10-year war against the Rothschild Empire. So you see the Kalki, the unrighteous, suffer eternally to enable the righteous to move into a golden age. Where does the light come for the righteous to make their matrix real and achieve reality which wasn't available from the old source? From the Psi-Lord farming with his employee Lucifer, the Elohim, the Rothschilds, and all the Western filth and the aliens, to enable the righteous humans to achieve godlike powers explaining Kalki, bringing in a golden age, a Kali Yuga for the Elohim Rothschild filth, and a golden age for the righteous. So you can see the dichotomy, the split. The West is the torture chamber, and the non-West, the enemies of the West, can achieve high science. We've explained that it's all science, and realities which weren't available before a golden age. And the alien filth across the megaverse are our torture toys, because I don't like humans, so you can imagine what I think of aliens. And the only good alien is a Omega Hellized alien. And of course the Rothschild and the Americans were in bed with the aliens, so all the aliens are Omega Hellized. So you can see with Schwartzy Boy stealing from at least 100 customers, we've got the 100th monkey effect. Now, of course, because of the 100th monkey effect, what Jeremiah Schwartzy Boy has done is to make it global for all of those within that set, which is all the Westerners, all of the aliens inhabited by the Elohim, the Greys, the insectiles, the reptiloids, and of course all of the kill-shotted dying horribly are simply bringing Omega Hell into reality. Who brought it in? The Rothschilds. And who's suffering? The Rothschild Empire. To incept this, we use the most valuable video on the planet. We bilocate into the video. There we are. We'll fist little Iris Sowlett Goldsmith, rip out her death and Omegalization. So she's screaming Omega Hell, being horribly misused by Lucifer. Naughty Lucifer, don't do that, it's turning me on. And we do it twice because we're redoubling. There we are. We've got the Omegalization, and we're going to place it now in my favourite torture toy. Now we're going to put this in Schwartzy Boy, and he, remember, has taken 100 saps, gormless, take my money, a fool and his money are easily parted, as we saw in the video from his ex-girlfriend. So we're going to stick Iris Goldsmith's death and Omegalization into him, and via his 100 saps. Suckers, never give a sucker an even break. And of course he's been sucking, so he's the real sucker. So we're going to stick Iris Goldsmith's Omegalization into him, the 100, and into every single alien and every single unrighteous piece of filth across the megaverse, all in one little video. There we are, fisted with our hand, release, wake up again, done. So this is the inception video for the globalization of the Iris Goldsmith Omegalization. She's screaming in Omega Hell as Lucifer's doing terrible things to her little anus. I won't mention it because we're on YouTube, and it's too horrific to mention, but at least he's got her mouth to wash it off on. We've now unleashed the Omega Hellization of the unrighteous. It's Kalki time via this piece of filth, and we didn't even have to watch its whiny-based video. So you can see how valuable this piece of scum and the CIA scum were to the cyborg. Now, with this new light, we can make stuff not from the multiverse, but from the conscious verse real. All this stuff exists in the conscious verse, not in the quantum multiverse, but the conscious verse. So we can make new quantum fields. How do we do that, Tim? Well, we simply perturb the quantum vacuum and have a quantum fluctuation controlled by the conscious multiverse and make the quantum vacuum's perturbation real with the Higgs field light stuff, reality stuff, God stuff that we farm from the unrighteous. Oh, that's a whole new science. That's God science. Yes, it is. And I've got CERN, quantum computers, the Borg, all synchronized to collapse the quantum wave function with the conscious field via White Rabbit, and all the other multiverse CERNs and AIs and quantum computers, and then taking over all the alien filths technologies to do this, to make stuff not from the multiverse but from the conscious verse real. And of course, the Jews, Morton Gentler, Robert Jordan, the Jew-owned publisher, Jew-owned Amazon, because of course Bezos got his money from the Rothschild Rockefellers. All of this is stealing from me. What did they steal? They stole, crushed like a flea, and the ramblings had no effect on reality. So everyone that watches this or buys the book or has made a profit is crushed like a flea, and the ramblings have no effect on reality, and they're roaming hellized to produce new light so that I and people who've got services from this can make the conscious verse real. So be careful what you steal. So everyone that's watched The Wheel of Time, bought the books, or made a profit from it, has been over-hellized to produce new light so I can have all the powers, realities, become the great Dark Lord, and the Wheel of Time is now real because I can quantum fluctuate the quantum vacuum to produce new multiverse where this is real and I'm in total control of it. Thank you very much, Jew boys. So here's CERN detecting 7 different universes, multiverses, megaverses, which you need to incorporate in all magic in order to make it real. And luckily you don't have to think about it because we got the tree in the Irish Goldsmith video. So it's all done for you, you lazy CUNTs, because being a silent, this is my hobby, and I like dotting the I's and crossing the T's. It's not work for me, it's fun, it's my hobby. So here's about evidence for dark energy matter realities.
Scrutiny, it could be the first crack in the wall, a break in the barrier between the visible and the invisible. And once that crack forms, the floodgates could open. What if what we're seeing isn't just a single signal, but the light bleeding through the edges of a realm we never knew was there? And if that realm exists, who's to say it's empty? What if dark matter is not just a passive gravitational anchor, but a host to something more? A parallel world, not in another universe, but right here, occupying the same space, the same time, the same physics. Just offset in a way we're only beginning to detect. We may not be alone, not just in terms of life in the universe, but in terms of reality itself. 1800 to 1930. Conclusion, what it all means. So let's return to the beginning. We asked a question, one that for decades lived at the edge of imagination. What if everything we know, everything we see, touch, and measure What if it's just 5% of reality? Now we may have an answer. Something stirred in the silence, a whisper from the void, buried in petabytes of data, invisible to the naked eye, yet screaming in the language of physics. A faint signal, not a flash of light, not a sound, but a disturbance in the fabric of reality, like a ripple in a pond we didn't even know existed. And this time, we were ready to listen. CERN's Large Hadron Collider, this massive ring of superconducting magnets beneath the Franco-Swiss border, had already rewritten the rules of physics once, when it discovered the Higgs boson in 2012. But that was just the beginning. Now, over a decade later, it may have done something even more profound. It may have uncovered the first tangible evidence of something scientists have been chasing for over 80 years: dark matter. Not the kind of matter we know: atoms, quarks, electrons, protons, not the stars, planets, or galaxies, but the invisible scaffolding that holds the entire universe together. The unseen mass that bends light, shapes galaxies, and accounts for more than 80% of the matter in the cosmos. Until now, dark matter was a ghost. We could only infer it from its gravitational fingerprints. We knew it was there because galaxies spin too fast, because light bends where it shouldn't. But we could never touch it, never isolate it, never measure it in a lab. That might have just changed. In one of CERN's recent high-energy collision events, something unexpected happened. Not just once, but again, and again, and again. A persistent anomaly, a pattern, not noise, not a fluke, but a trace of something unknown. Particles were behaving as if something else was stealing energy, as if an invisible participant was quietly slipping through the fabric of the experiment, undetected by any known force or sensor. This is the dark matter fingerprint we've been waiting for. And if it holds up under scrutiny, if this isn't an artifact of faulty equipment or mathematical overreach, then we are standing at the edge of a revolution. Because this wouldn't just be a discovery, it would be a revelation. A revelation that everything we've built our understanding of the universe upon, the standard model of particle physics, is incomplete, not wrong, just partial, like trying to describe a cathedral from a single stained glass window. This opens the door to new physics, new particles, new fields, new laws. The universe may have just handed us a key, a signal in the darkness, pointing towards something vast, silent, and utterly invisible, a reality humming beneath our own. One we can't see, but one that shapes everything we are. Let's be clear, we don't have conclusive proof. This is not a press conference moment. This is a whisper, not a shout. But for the first time in human history, we might be standing at the threshold. And what lies beyond that threshold? It could be supersymmetry, a bold theory suggesting every known particle has a heavier twin, a superpartner, hiding just out of reach. A theory that could unify the chaotic zoo of particles into a harmonious framework, and potentially explain what dark matter is. Or perhaps its axions, hypothetical particles make up an ocean of dark matter, filling the cosmos like an invisible sea. Or maybe it's a hidden sector, a parallel realm governed by its own forces and interactions. Like our universe has a shadow twin, overlapping us in space but never intersecting, until now. Or it might be something even stranger, a breach into extra dimensions, an echo from a higher dimensional space bleeding into ours, tugging on particles, leaking energy. Theoretical, yes, but not impossible. Each of these ideas shatters the boundaries of known science. Each one redefines what it means to exist. Because this isn't just about
So as we can see, the moron physicists are stumbling onto the realities that the shamans, the dreamers of old, explored 10,000 years ago, all described in the art of dreaming, and I've been to hundreds of different interdimensional realities and interacted with loads of interdimensionals. So one can see now the moron physicists have stumbled onto the interdimensional realm. So, when you think, oh, Tim Refat's just waffling, he's a bullshitter, no one's supporting anything he says, no, he's a madman, stick him in a mental hospital. Well, he's sane. Well, stick him in a mental hospital anyway, we don't like what he's saying. No, he's sane. You can see now the C.I.A.'s front are coming out with, yes, he is right, and we need billions in funding to combat him.
Is fundamental to existence itself. The physical world isn't just sitting there whether we look at it or not. It's being brought into existence through the act of observation. But an even more shocking experiment with human consciousness is forcing scientists to reconsider whether your mind is confined to your brain at all. Near-death experiences and consciousness beyond the brain. Studies of cardiac arrest patients by cardiologist Pim van Lommel found that 18% reported clear, lucid consciousness when their brains showed no activity. This should be impossible according to conventional neuroscience, yet the evidence is compelling. One of the most extraordinary cases is that of Pam Reynolds. During brain surgery, her blood was drained from her head, her body temperature was lowered to 60 degrees, and she had no brain activity on EEG monitors. Yet she later accurately described specific surgical tools used and conversations that occurred during the operation, information she couldn't possibly have known through normal means. Van Lommel's conclusion is revolutionary. Between 10 and 20% of cardiac arrest survivors reported an experience of enhanced consciousness during the period of unconsciousness, during clinical death when the brain no longer functions. This directly contradicts what materialist science predicts. When the brain flatlines, consciousness should disappear completely. Yet these patients report enhanced awareness, not diminished. They describe vivid, hyper-real experiences with heightened clarity and insight, while their brains show zero measurable activity. Brain flatline EEG readings show no activity whatsoever. Yet NDE patients report detailed perceptions, thoughts, and memories during these periods. This suggests consciousness can operate independent of brain function. What if your brain doesn't generate consciousness, but receives it, like a TV tunes into a broadcast? The filter theory, proposed by philosophers William James and Henri Bergson, suggests consciousness is fundamental, and your brain acts as a receiver or filter rather than a producer. But the most revolutionary discovery about reality comes from understanding how your individual consciousness connects to the entire universe. The holographic universe and brain. Your brain operates like a hologram. Each part contains information about the whole. This revolutionary discovery challenges everything we thought we knew about how memories and consciousness work. Neuroscientist Carl Pribram's holonomic brain theory showed that memories aren't stored in specific locations like files in a computer. When Pribram studied patients with brain injuries, he found something remarkable. Removing large portions of brain tissue didn't erase specific memories. Instead, memories remained intact but became less detailed, exactly like what happens when you cut a hologram into pieces. This connects directly to quantum field theory, which shows that every electron in your body is an excitation of the same electron field that extends throughout the universe. The electrons in your brain aren't isolated particles. They're expressions of a unified field that spans all of existence. Physicist David Bohm took this idea to its logical conclusion with his theory of the implicate order. Bohm declared, wholeness is what is real, and the structure of that wholeness is holographic. He proposed that at the deepest level of reality, everything is interconnected. Each part contains the whole, just as each fragment of a hologram contains the entire image. When you break a hologram into pieces, each piece still shows the complete original image, just with less detail. Similarly, each part of your brain, each cell in your body, and potentially each particle in the universe contains information about the whole.
Which of course it would, because in nonlinear dynamics, self-similarity means that if you do it to one, you do it to the whole. So we've been talking about self-similarity. If you did it to Jeremiah Schwartz and his ilk, you do it to every chaotic being. And with the 100th monkey effect, it's shown that if you do it to 100 conscious entities, it's then spread to the entire set of those conscious entities. See? It's all starting to make sense now, isn't it? It's all physics.
Deep meditation report feeling connected to everything. They're accessing the holographic nature of reality. When the brain's filtering function is reduced during meditation, people can experience directly what quantum physics and holographic theory suggest. That separation is an illusion, and at the deepest level, everything is unified. Consciousness as fundamental. Leading physicists and neuroscientists are now proposing consciousness is as fundamental as space, time, and energy. This isn't fringe science. It's increasingly recognized as the most elegant solution.
Then, of course, with Sochivanov, would you not want to be the premier controller of the conscious field? Would that not be the holy grail of C.I.A? To be the king of the castle in the conscious verse, and everyone else is simply controlled by your consciousness. Source technology. So you can see that the consciousness of the Rothschilds collapsing, and the other collapsing the quantum wave function to produce the reality of me being crushed like a flea and my ramblings having no effect on reality is the modus operandi. And of course, since it was reversed, the consciousness to crush anyone like a flea, because remember the Elohim are five-dimensional and make their ramblings have no effect on reality, has been stolen from the Elohim and their vehicles, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers and royal family. And now it's playtime, where everyone that isn't me and is unrighteous is crushed like a flea, and the ramblings have no effect on reality, and the more I use this power, the more my enemies have to suffer in Omega Hell to power me to crush my enemies like a flea and make their ramblings have no effect on reality. Ramblings have no effect on reality. What could that be? Any ideas, cameraman? Any ideas, Joshy's remote brain? No?
No, what you're saying is manifesting.
No, but what's your ramblings have no effect on reality? What's erasing? Have we done erasing entire realities?
We have.
What's it called in the Wheel of Time?
Balefire.
Balefire, yes. And who supplied all the energy for it? The Jew boys, Mort Jean-Claude and Robert Jordan, see?
Deepest puzzles. Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, went even further. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness. He recognized that our entire concept of reality presupposes an aware observer. Without consciousness, you can't even talk about existence in any meaningful way. Integrated information theory, developed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi and supported by Christoph Koch, proposes that consciousness corresponds to integrated information in a system and is a fundamental aspect of reality. This theory suggests consciousness isn't something produced by the brain, but an intrinsic property of reality itself that becomes concentrated in certain complex systems. For decades, physicists have struggled with the measurement problem in quantum physics. Why do quantum possibilities suddenly become definite outcomes when measured? Similarly, neuroscientists face the hard problem of consciousness. How do electrochemical processes in the brain create subjective experiences like the feeling of love or the color blue? The bombshell conclusion more scientists are reaching. Both problems can be solved if consciousness is fundamental to reality itself. If mind isn't produced by matter, but is a basic feature of the universe, then conscious observation naturally resolves quantum superpositions, and subjective experience isn't created by the brain. It's an inherent aspect of reality that the brain taps into. This isn't just philosophy, It's becoming the most compelling framework to explain the scientific data we have about both consciousness and quantum reality.